All right, welcome everyone. We're about to jump into something really, really cool, an amazing creative journey where you're going to learn how to build your very own video games from scratch, all with Python and the Pygame library. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so here's our game plan, our coder's quest, if you will. We'll start by getting our toolkit together. Then we'll learn the rules of the road. After that, we'll talk about that huge leap from simple text to awesome graphics. We'll look at the basic anatomy of a game. And finally, we'll discover the secret engine that brings it all to life.
You know that feeling, right? You're playing a game and you just think, man, I bet I could make something like this. Well, if that's you, you are in exactly the right place. Think of this as your first big step on that personal quest. Any big quest, any adventure, it always starts with getting the right gear. And for us, that means setting up our coding environment.
And honestly, it's not as complicated as it might sound. It really just boils down to three simple steps. First, we need Python. That's the language we're going to be speaking. Then we'll add Pygame, which is like our library of game-making magic. And finally, we'll do a quick check just to make sure everything's talking to each other correctly.
All right, so depending on what kind of computer you're using, it's a little different. If you're on Windows, you'll want to grab the latest Python 3 installer from Python's main website. Now, if you're a Mac or a Linux user, good news. Python is usually already on there. And hey, if you get stuck at all, seriously, check out the free online book, Invent Your Own Computer Games with Python. It's a fantastic, super detailed guide. Okay, this is the moment of truth, but don't worry, it's super simple. Once you've got everything installed, you just open up Python's little command window, the shell, and you type import pygame. Then you hit enter. And if nothing happens, no big scary error messages pop up, that silence is golden. It means you did it. You've equipped your new toolkit, and you are officially ready to start coding. All right, tools are ready. Now, every quest has its own kind of code of conduct, right? So let's talk about a few best practices that are going to help you get the absolute most out of this journey. Seriously, think of this as a few pro tips from me to you, stuff that's going to save you a ton of headaches. First, and this is a big one, resist the urge to copy and paste. I know it's tempting, but typing the code out yourself, line by line, it builds that muscle memory. It really helps you learn. Second, if you're following along in the book, just ignore the line numbers on the side. They're just for reference. What is super, super critical, though, is the spacing at the start of a line. That's called indentation. And in Python, it has to be perfect. And hey, if your code breaks, and it will, don't panic. The book's website has this awesome little diff tool that'll compare what you wrote to the correct version and point out any little typos. Okay, this is where things get really exciting. We're about to leave the old world of plain old text behind and step into a much more vibrant world of visuals. See, most of the simple programs you start with in Python, they run in what's called a command line interface, or a CLI. I mean, think of those old school text adventure games, right? Just words on a black screen. But for the games we want to build, we need a graphical user interface, a GUI. That's what gives us images, colors, mouse controls, the whole shebang. It's the difference between just reading a story and actually stepping inside it. And that is the huge leap we're making with Pygame. So let's break down the basic blueprint. This is like the foundational recipe, the sort of magic spell you're going to cast for almost every single Pygame program you write. And we're going to start with the classic hello world, right? Every programmer starts there. But we're giving it a Pygame twist. We're not just going to print some text to a console. No, we're going to create an actual real window on our computer screen. And you'll see this pattern over and over. First, you import the code libraries you need. Second, you wake up Pygame with one simple little command. Third, you create the window itself, telling it how big to be in pixels. And finally, you give your window a name, a caption in the title bar. These 4 steps, they're basically the opening lines to almost every game you'll ever build. Okay, let's get to the grand finale. This is probably the single most important concept we're going to talk about today. We're about to pop the hood and find the very heartbeat of your game, the engine that makes your world feel truly alive and interactive. And it has a name, the game loop. Now, at its core, it's actually, it's just a loop, a simple loop that runs over and over and over again, like insanely fast. And inside this constantly spinning wheel, the game is doing everything it needs to do to feel alive. On every single one of those super fast cycles, it's doing 3 main jobs. First, it handles events. It's always checking. Did the player press a key? Did they click the mouse? Second, it updates the game state. That means changing things, like moving a character across the screen or adding points to the score. And third, it draws everything to the screen, showing you the brand new picture based on all those updates. And this is just a brilliant way to picture it. Think about an old film projector. Each little frame on that film is just a single static snapshot of your game. The game loop is the motor that's yanking that film through the projector, dozens of times every single second. By constantly checking what you're doing, updating the scene, and then showing you that new frame, it creates this seamless, perfect illusion of a living, breathing world. So there you have it. You've got the tools, you know the rules of the road, and you have the fundamental blueprint. Your quest as a game developer has now officially begun. The only question left is, what world are you going to create first?